Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now guys, we all knew this was going to happen at some point. It was only a matter of time, and sometimes I wonder what the psychological impact of all of this is having on this fella. Guys, I bring you this. Sowore raises alarm over plot by Buhari's regime to rearrest him after Sahara reporters exposed CV. You all know what CV is, what's going on in the world at the moment. So after Sahara reporters exposed CV in Sowore, so that's the headline we're contending with. We're going back to Sowore again. So again, the headline: Sowore raises alarm over plot by Buhari's regime to rearrest him after Sahara reporters exposed CV in Sowore. So now let's find out exactly what is going on here. Rights activist and journalist Omoyele Sowore has raised the alarm over a plot by the Nigerian government to detain him over revelations by his news outlet Sahara reporters that the chief of staff to President Muhammadu Buhari, Abakari, tested positive for CV. On Monday night, Sahara reporter had exclusively reported that Kyari was ill and had contracted the deadly virus. The online news medium went ahead on Tuesday to break the story of 3 of Kyari's staff contracting the virus from him. Till this moment, the presidency has been unable to deny any of the reports, instead plotting to turn their anger on Sowore and Sahara reporters. In a message to his followers on Facebook on Thursday, Sowore said his lawyers had informed him of a high-powered delegation sent to the Federal High Court in Abuja to obtain a detention order. So this is what he has to say, his words. Sowore said, "Folks, it is important to inform you that we are facing some unusual circumstances and the days ahead might be very tense and difficult, but we will conquer." Following the revelation by Sahara reporters that the chief of staff to Buhari, Abakari, contracted CV, and subsequent revelations about the criminal conduct/negligence that has brought Nigeria to the nadir of this global pandemic, the Buhari regime today sent some high-powered delegation to the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court of Nigeria to help procure a detention order against me. The courts are reportedly on break due to the global situation. This was leaked to our lawyers a few minutes ago. They planned this time to use the Nigerian army for the sinister plot. The plan is to obtain a court order and then send soldiers to shoot up my residence in Abuja by claiming that I resisted arrest with armed colleagues. If I am arrested alive, they would take me to a military barracks in Abuja to be tortured and or infected with the global CV. I am not raising the alarm to scare anyone. It is to inform our compatriots that we should brace for difficult days ahead. However, rest assured that we are in high spirits and are totally convinced that we may be turning a historic corner in the face of brutal repression. I am urging all to stand firm, unbowed, and unbroken. Recall that Sowore was first arrested in the early hours of August 3rd, 2019 by operatives of the Department of State Services for calling on Nigerians to take to the streets in a peaceful demonstration on August the 5th to demand a better country from the administration of President Buhari. He was kept in unlawful detention from that period until December the 5th, 2019, when he was finally released on bail despite 2 court orders earlier sanctioning his freedom. In a twist of event, DSS operatives invaded the Federal High Court in Abuja on December the 6th, 2019 to rearrest him without any court order. He remained in unlawful detention until 18 days later when he was released by the secret police for the second time. At the resumption of his trial in a case brought against him by the Nigerian government, the prosecution failed to prove accusations against him and even went ahead to drop in 7 of the charges earlier preferred against him. Groups and high-ranking individuals from around the world have described the charges against Sowore as baseless and a waste of time. The journalist remains confined to Abuja as one of his bail conditions forbids him from leaving the city or speaking with journalists until the end of his trial. So now this is now what is going on with Sowore. So now this Sowore narrative is a macrocosm of the synopsis of the malaise that afflicts the Nigerian state. It's a total abdication of, so the one template of this Buhari regime is a total disregard for the rule of law and consequently an abuse of power, because of course if you have no regard for law and you are in a powerful position, and then of course you will abuse that power, and that is what we're seeing playing out with this Buhari regime. So now Sowore is raising the alarm that he's going to be rearrested again. So I am not quite sure if this is a preemptive strike on behalf of Sowore, putting this out there just to fend off the possibilities, or if these are actual real events that has led to raising this alarm, or if Sowore, as is known sometimes, is just making this noise in the papers just to flash his name up because he does like publicity. We have to, I'm a Sowore supporter too, I'm a fan of the man, but he does love attention and he does love the sound of his own voice. So there is that element of that to it too. But because we know the antecedents of this Buhari regime with their lack of regard for law and order, they claim to be a law and order sort of government, but they have absolute disregard for law and order, and the corruption of course in the regime is very rife, and this is really what they're seeking to protect, because you have to understand that this is one of the most corrupt and the most secretive regimes in the history of Nigeria. You have a president that hides away in Aso Rock and nobody sees him or meets him. This is a president that has not held a press conference since 2015 when he came into power, and you rarely ever see him in the public space except of course during campaign times when they just pump him up with medication and wheel him out for like a couple of minutes just to dress him up and put him on a rostrum and then sit him down and then whisk him away again. So clearly there's some things going on that the Nigerian population will be alarmed if they find out about, and it is because of that secrecy, and it is because of course of that secretiveness that this regime is shrouded in that makes them so finicky and panicky, and anytime that anything seeks to shine a torchlight onto their activities, they immediately weigh down heavily on it with the full weight and might of the state. And the classic example, that is why I said this Sowore narrative is a macrocosm of the deeper malaise that afflicts the country. So the classic example of the Buhari's regime's intolerance for dissenting voices or probity or satellites being shined upon them is this Sowore narrative, because this Sowore of course is now saying, okay, we want to demonstrate for good government. So what any regime would then do was first invite him to a debate, say, okay, you want to demonstrate for good government, come to a television studio, come to a radio station studio, we'll put our man next to you, and then you can debate him on what you feel is missing, and we can then highlight to you what they feel that they are doing. That will be the first course of action. But if the city, because the laws in Nigeria does permit for public demonstrations of disaffection so long as that demonstration is peaceful, and what Sowore was calling for was a peaceful demonstration. In fact, Buhari himself demonstrated on the streets against Goodluck Jonathan, and what happened then was that Goodluck Jonathan gave them security details to guide that demonstration so that it doesn't disrupt public activities. It doesn't disturb members of the public, and then of course members of the public do not disturb them. And this is exactly the template for demonstrations in Nigeria. So if you're saying you're going to demonstrate, you make sure that you highlight this to the authorities so they're able to adequately secure that demonstration, so that it doesn't conflict with day-to-day business and day-to-day activities with people that are not participants of your demonstration, whilst you still get that democratic right to that fundamental human right to demonstrate and air your grievances. So this is really what the formula is in Nigeria. But then of course, under this Malam Buhari regime, the constitution of Nigeria has been entirely suspended, and we are operating entirely on some Fulani Janjaweed rule book which nobody knows about except the Fulani Janjaweeds. Conversations in the comment section. Sowore is flashing it up in the public space that they are coming after him again. True or false, it doesn't really matter, because the antecedent of this government, of course, as I said, is one that lends itself to that sort of behavior, an abject and total disregard for the rule of law. What says you? Come share thoughts about all this with me in the comment section. But before you do that, click on the red subscribe button so it turns gray. The bell button notifies you every time I drop a new video. Then come join me in the comment section to have a conversation around what Sowore has put out in the public space. So I'll leave you here. Carry this conversation on with you in the comment section. But here I say peace.